see no home without you. When you go, and I'm alone, and so blue. Ooh, so rise me.
Hello there and a very good evening to you. You're very welcome to Wexford Park for this highlights package from the Pettitt Senior Hurling Championship semi-finals. The first game was fought out by St Anne's and Glynn-Barntown, and Glynn-Barntown opened with this impressive attack coming from Matthew Joyce. But Joyce couldn't get past Tomas Cullen, and so his efforts were foiled. St Anne's opened with the breeze, which was blowing from left to right, coming from the Clonard end. Glynn-Barntown entered the game with plenty of confidence, which they had garnered from the quarter-final victory at the expense of out of the Balloch, the 5-in-a-row county champions. But the two sides seemed to be fidgeting with nerves for the opening throws of the game. When Dermot O'Keefe's shot went in, St Anne's lost possession to Michael O'Regan's benefit. But the persistence of St Anne's would characterise their performance. Michael Fogarty managed to turn over possession, and Pádraig O'Keefe broke through on goal, and he was brought to ground by Barry Doyle, which resulted in a free-in on the 20-metre line. That free was converted by Dermot O'Keefe. The first score of the game came after 3 minutes. 1 point to St Anne's, no score to Glynn-Barntown. David O'Connor was the first to emerge from a ruck at the centre of the field, and play culminated with the in-rushing Jonathan Fogarty, but Fogarty's effort just went to the left and wide. Kevin Crane was hugely influential for Glynn-Barntown at the centre of the field. He was the catalyst for this piece of movement. Matthew Joyce did a little shimmy and tried to get past Tomas Cullen, but once more Cullen got the better of him. Eventually though, Joyce played a ball inside and David Fogarty managed to clear it. When Gary Moore regained possession for Glynn-Barntown, he was brought to ground and it resulted in a free-in facing the Clonard end post. John Lacey levelled things up after 8 minutes. A short puck out was opted for by St Anne's then, and it was a good option as Liam McGovern managed to claim a heroic catch and set up Dermot O'Keefe for this attack. Michael O'Regan impeded him and Joe Kelly decided to award a penalty. But Dermot O'Keefe took the economical option and he lobbed the ball over the bar, giving St Anne's a 1-point advantage, 2 points to 1 after 12 minutes. The equalising point came 13 minutes later on 25 minutes, and it came from the stick of John Lacey as he struck a point from the halfway point. Mark Fanning followed suit and a few minutes later to give Glynn-Barntown a slender lead of 3 points to 2. This time St Anne's opted for a short puck out, and the effort of Joe Codd was foiled by Rowan White, who managed to point for Glynn-Barntown, giving Glynn-Barntown a 2-point lead. It was the first score from play, and the people of Wexford Park had waited a long time for it. 27 minutes had gone. Mark Fanning tried once more to land a heroic free from the far 45-metre line, but this time his shot just went to the right and wide. Dermot O'Keefe then tried to cut the gap, and he did so. 4 points to 3, and that's how it finished at half-time. Both sides were raring to go at the restart, and while John Lacey tried to get Glynn-Barntown back on track, it was St Anne's who'd craft the first scoring threat of the second half. David O'Connor played the ball to Dermot O'Keefe, who jigged past Michael O'Regan and levelled things up. 4 points apiece with 2 minutes gone. The next ball was loose and Michael O'Regan tried to pull on it, but in doing so he pulled on Dermot O'Keefe. It was a free-in for St Anne's and Dermot O'Keefe stole the lead for them. The Rathangan men led by 5 points to 4 after 32 minutes. The next ball was a dangerous one for Glynn-Barntown as Liam McGovern got past Jack Fenlon. The 19-year-old had done very well on the lively county poacher for the duration of the game, but this time it was helter-skelter on the Clonard end goal mouth. Eventually, a wild swing by a St Anne's man meant that it was a free out for Glynn-Barntown. but St Anne's came back again. This ball came into Liam McGovern's path, and even though he was under enormous pressure from Padraig Donnelly and Brendan Doyle, St Anne's still had possession. Liam McGovern played the ball inside to Pádraig O'Keefe. He dispossessed it, and once more was helter-skelter. A ruck-like situation developed around 20 metres out from the Clonard end, and that left Joe Kelly with no option but to throw the ball in. It wasn't long till St Anne's came back for more though. This ball came in from Jonathan Fogarty, went to the far flank, and danger bells were ringing for Glynn-Barntown as Liam McGovern popped this ball over the bar from his left hand side. The two-man full forward line for St Anne's was working wonders for the Rathangan men. Liam McGovern fired over his second point, creating a 3-point advantage for the Anns after 42 minutes. An error by Redmond Barry was capitalised on by John Lacey. That cut the gap to 7 points to 5. But Lacey wasn't too successful with his subsequent strike. As Redmond Barry tried to get the ball out of his defence, Kevin Crane overturned possession, and so the Glynn-Barntown men reduced the deficit to just a point. Kevin Crane's strike making it 7 points to 6 after 47 minutes. And the equaliser followed as John Lacey did the honours. Just 12 minutes were remaining, and with the wind at their backs, Glynn-Barntown were pouncing on St Anne's. This time, a long ball from Gary Moore was a successful shot and gave Glynn-Barntown the lead, 8 points to 7 after 49 minutes. Even though Glynn-Barntown had created the lead, it was St Anne's who would pounce back. Aidan Rochford showed a great bit of leadership as he completed a 50-metre run and then selflessly let it off to Liam McGovern, who then set up Pádraig O'Keefe and rattled the back of the Clonard end net. It was 1-7 to 8 points, and St Anne's were the first ones to react as they set about embellishing their lead. Pádraig O'Keefe let the ball off to Dermot, who burst through past Brendan Doyle and pointed the ball over the bar. 1-8 to 8 points in Wexford Park. With time running out for Glynn-Barntown, Don Lacey put the ball over the bar to reduce his side's deficit to 2. Mark Fanning had an audacious effort coming from between the 20 and 45 metre lines, but the connection from John Lacey went to the left and wide. His subsequent shot though was more successful. He hit it from the far 65 metre line, and that cut the gap to just a point. With 4 minutes of normal time remaining, John Lacey set about establishing parity. 1-8 to 11 points was the score. And Glynn-Barntown almost stole the lead. The ball inside to Michael Doyle led to a shot from Gary Moore from the 20 metre line. It was an ambitious one, but a good save from Joe Codd held it off. And then concentration turned to the other end of the field. St Anne's went in pursuit of a goal. Redmond Barry let the ball off to Liam McGovern, and in a biblical fashion, the Red Seas parted and he buried the ball in the back of the Clonard end net. 2-8 to 11 points. Joe Codd hit a long ball in from the far end of the field, and scooping the ball up was Dermot O'Keefe, and in a heroic fashion he fired the ball over the bar, and that was the coup de grace, giving St Anne's the win. 2-9 to 11 points, the final score in Wexford Park.
Billy, we're at the business end of the football championship in Wexford now, and there's some great ties coming up in the quarterfinals, but one that sticks out for me is Shelmaliers and Sarsfields.
Yes, Leona, of course, I'd have an interest in that. It was a bit of an understatement. My own team, Sarsfield's playing, and they've done very well to get to this stage, you know, because I know last year we beaten semi-finalists by Pettitt, but the team has evolved and there are 8 changes from last year's team, so they'll be really up against it. But they have done well to get this far. But they're playing a team, Shamaliers, I think, are going really well. They're very fit and determined, and they had a very impressive display last night against Adamstown. In the team they had barely beaten in the league final, but they really annihilated the last week in the last round of the league stages of the championship.
Yeah. Shell seemed to take a while to kind of get off the mark this year in the football, because there had been some kind of like expectancy with them having reached the semi-final stage last year to kind of continue on with that development this year. But at times, from a supporter's point of view, I don't think that we were seeing that coming through. So it is good to see them coming through at this stage. Like
it is, and if you look back on the record of the minors, they won, I think it was 9 Jim Byrne Cups, and it's at last they're seeing the fruits of the labour, for that team. Many talented youngsters. Craig McCabe scored 9 points the last day against Adamstown. We have the 2 Malones, Owen Nolan, very, very talented players, and I think they'll have too much for my team in the quarterfinals, to be honest with you.
I think you're just putting that out there.
Well, we'd never push as being overconfident, but no, I think on paper and on form you'd have to pick Shamaliers for that tie.
Another interesting tie that's coming up would be Castletown and the Martins. The Martins haven't been in the decider last year and coming out as champions. This is going to be a tough game. 2 very good footballing teams, and a lot at stake at quarter-final stage.
Yeah, St Martin's were worthy champions last year, Leona, and they're very determined to retain their title this year. And a lot will be riding on the availability of Dahi Waters, I think, because he got injured a couple of weeks ago playing hurling. He did ligaments in his ankle, and he's been missing the last couple of games, and he really is the fulcrum of the team. He's the go-to man with club and county, and he's really he's impossible to replace, and I think he has such an influence on the game. The Martins will be trying their best to get him available. They'll also be missing I think Willie Devereux. He got black-carded in the previous game, and that happened to him earlier in the championship, so automatically he has to miss a game. So he's a big loss as well, a very capable defender, inter-county hurler, but an excellent footballer as well. They still have Kieran Ling. They have a lot of versatile players, because young Jamie Carty came out of the forward line the last day, went midfield and won a lot of possession. He's a very talented young lad, and it will be a challenge for Castletown to beat the reigning champions.
Yeah, I suppose looking at Castletown, Anthony Masterson is there, and they've got some good guys themselves.
Yeah, Anthony played in goal for the county team for years, an excellent goalkeeper, but he plays midfield for his club. They're led by Colin Morris, who's captain and involved in the training this year. They've Brendan Halpin, James Holmes, of course, full forward, and he is the centre of their attack. Everything goes through him. Excellent player, always plays well for his club. They've lost Conor Carty to a cruciate ligament injury earlier in the summer, and he is a major loss to the club. But they played feathered in the last league game, and they did what they had to do. I don't think they were too up for the game, and I think they're holding back a bit in reserve, and I think it's going to be a very close game. If Dahi Waters is back, I'll tip the Martins. If he's not back, I think Castletown could put out the reigning champions.
Yeah, I think you can never rule out a Castletown team, though. They always bring something special to a game.
They do. They're determined, and the skill, and they just never give up. They never give up, and that's something that every team wishes they could have.